bars in a rave. Man, I go hard like Santan.
Yes, good evening. Hello, one and all. TouchlineGunners fans, welcome back to your weekly edition of TG. It's your boy SV Carbaholic on hosting duty. Yes, the lads are back. I'm sure you've all been seeing the clips on social media. The guys are at a pre-season training camp, I believe, in La Manga in Spain. They're getting their kicks in, they're dusting off the cobwebs, they're getting back into the swing of things. But listen, we have been very much here at TG headquarters in the full swing of things. We've been feeding you guys content galore over the last month or 6 weeks, and it's really helped because I've seen you guys have been recommended. Our Patreon count have been going up, so really want to big up all you guys, big up all the patrons engaging with the content, engaging with us online. We really appreciate it, and there will be more. So if you do like the stuff that you see that's behind the paywall, tell a friend to tell a friend. You can join from as little as £3 a month. We've done a lot of scouting vids on a lot of the players we're linked to, the ones we've signed, and I think we're going to start using our Y Scout now to also do a bit more into season reviews, season previews of some of the current guys taking it. I think, you know, the ones we have, we'll start with are the two young kids, the two breakout stars, Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ethan Waneri. So do be on the lookout for those. Those are good bits of content. And I guess we'll get into all of that good stuff now, especially with Ethan and with me to touch on all these things and all things Arsenal is my brother, Seun Shabs, the Hood Solicitor. How are you, my bro?
All good, man. All good. Happy with the state of things at the football club at the moment, but we'll be happier. We'll be happier when we lock in Gyok. Nothing's going to hit that Gyok bomber, and we'll be the happiest I've been in a long time as an Arsenal fan if we lock in Eze. If we lock in Eze,
yes, all of that good stuff. So, yes, you know, potentially we might hear 3 announcements this week. We know, I think we've seen Noni Madueke has done his medical, so it's just a case of when the club announced that. We saw yesterday, I think Fabrizio Romano tweeted that Mosquera was undergoing his medical yesterday at Arsenal. We saw him board the plane to London from Valencia. So that is probably another case of when the club decide to announce this. Yes, but we're still waiting on the full agreement for Yarez. You know, it still seems that there's some add-on issues there, you know, getting that stuff over the line. It's interesting, right? Because we've seen with that sporting president, he's done it before with Pedro Porro when he was going to Tottenham, with Bruno Fernandes when he's going to Man United. We're even hearing that, you know, there's some difficulties with them and Crystal Palace, you know, with the transfer of Ousmane Diomande as well. So this sporting president seems to be straight from the book of, you know, Olas, if you remember him at Lyon, and, you know, De Laurentiis at Napoli. You know, you have those tough presidents that are difficult to deal with. So hopefully, you know, we can get this Yarez one over the line, because we do know, I believe we fly out to Singapore for the Asia tour this weekend. I think we've got a behind closed doors friendly, I believe. I think they said it's on Saturday. Watford, obviously, you know, Watford are training grounds back up to each other. So easy, just hop over the bushes, get that game locked in, and then we bounce off to Singapore for our pre-season. And one person who's going to be on that, you know, hopefully Yarez will be on that, but one person we do know who will be on that, as he's also just coming back from a successful stint at the under-21s where England retained the Euros. We got the news this morning that Ethan Waneri has is set to renew for 5 years, whether that's 4+1 or 5 years all in total. And another one of our Haaland star boys is set to continue. So Shabs, what's your immediate news reaction to that? I think most people were confident that he would stay, he would renew. I guess there were some murmurings that there was discussions about game time, you know, where is he going to operate? But I think with obviously the Noni Madueke announcement that will come shortly, it kind of firmly looks like we're positioning Ethan to play as an interior, whether that's as one of the 8s or as a 10 going forward. So just talk to me quickly, give me your immediate thoughts on, you know, him renewing, him being around for another 5 years, and how you see his role evolving both this season and going forward.
Yeah, I mean, first off, he's you know, for me, he's a gem in the crown jewels for me. We cannot ignore or forget how supremely talented this boy is. We've been knowing about him. He made his debut for Arsenal Football Club 2 seasons ago as a 15-year-old. And he was kind of still early into being 15. I don't think he was 15 and a half years old yet at that moment in time. I think people need to continue to be measured in their expectations and what they're voicing as kind of demands from the player. He's a supremely talented young football player. We've seen what happens, especially in this country. We've seen how some of these football players get churned out, you know, chewed up and spat out from a very early age. So approaching him with caution, approaching him with all of the organizational and institutional learning that's happened for young players across England and Europe is really important. It's really important for me as a fan who is very excited about the potential of this supremely talented individual. It's really important for Arsenal as a football club. So I think people were being a bit unreasonable. We started to hear these rumors and this noise about, yeah, well, he's getting itchy feet. He's starting making claims for demands and whatnot. I felt confident. Look, he's on holiday, went to the Euros, the championships with the under-21s. He's on holiday. It's very reasonable for him to just have a holiday to unwind, especially given his integration into the first team proper for the last season. So I felt confident and expected it to be done on his return from holiday. Very soon after his return from holiday, the agreement in principle is done. It's confirmed. It's very good that we've tied him down to some combination or some variant of a 5-year contract. This will no doubt be on increased and improved terms, absolutely. And in terms of playing style, if we are a very sensible club, I'd expect very, very careful integration for Ethan Nwaneri. I think the biggest issue, one of the biggest issues in relation to Ethan is the...
Sorry to jump in there. You know, when you say careful integration, what does that look like for you? Yeah, because he made 37 appearances for Arsenal last season. Bearing in mind, we could argue Miles Lewis-Skelly is arguably more important to the team right now. He didn't make as many appearances as Ethan does. So what does careful look like? Should he be playing more or less this season?
Careful integration means he should be playing... For me, one of the best things and one of the most crucial things about development, about youth development, about developing young players is game time. And it's game time in meaningful minutes, yeah, in meaningful game situations. It's not bringing him off the bench with 5 minutes to go for a game that's already won, or throwing him on when there's very little that he can do to impact the game. That's what we saw last season at times. Yeah, so yes, he did clock up appearances, but when you consider minutes comparatively, some of those appearances were significant in terms of minutes and game time played. Some of those appearances were inconsequential minutes. So for me, that's a huge consideration. I think one of the biggest issues is that there's been this comparison between Miles Lewis-Skelly's integration into the team last season, which kind of came from, it was unexpected. So this time last season, no one was talking about or anticipating Miles Lewis-Skelly impacting the season and breaking into the Arsenal first team the way that he has done. So I think that warps perception of fans as the season goes on, because you're looking, saying, oh, well, Miles Lewis-Skelly's been able to do it. These are in the same age group. Arguably, there was more noise about Ethan Nwaneri when they were playing lower down the age ranks than there was about Miles Lewis-Skelly. So why can't he do it? There's so many reasons, and there's such a discussion about why it's not the same. No one player's integration or development pathway is linear. It's a different position, it's different requirements on the pitch, it's different strengths and weaknesses of both of the individual players. There are unspoken factors that we definitely are not privy to, we may not be aware of. There are a number of different reasons. And for me, Miles as well seems, well, we know he's older. Miles is a September birthday. So Miles is going to be 19 in about 3 months. Ethan, on the other hand, is a March birthday. Ethan turned 18 4 months ago. So they're about 7 months apart. So in terms of physical development, one's at the top of the class, the school class age group, if you want to put it like that. The other one's nearer the bottom. So physically, Miles just looked like more ready and capable, but mentality-wise as well. And it's not saying that I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying or suggesting that Ethan doesn't have, or that I don't think he has a top mentality. I do just think what Miles has demonstrated comparatively in terms of his mentality, or the opportunities we've got to get exposure to Miles's mentality, he already looks and seems like a player who just supremely belongs in the team. Ethan, comparatively, Miles comparatively has been asked to cover for Calafiori at left back, or Zinchenko, or Timber as a makeshift, Tomiyasu as a makeshift, Kivio as a makeshift. Who else am I missing? Tierney as a makeshift. Whereas Ethan, we're expecting him to cover for Bukayo Saka, who is a world-class footballer, and Erdegaard, who is the club captain, and on his day, he's a world-class footballer. So we have to be guided here, and we have to be realistic and understand and appreciate why there are differences in how these two players, if we wanted to compare them, have integrated into the team differently. And then finally, I just want to say, in terms of 17-year-olds, or in terms of his peers in football, in the Premier League, forget Europe, in the Premier League alone, there weren't many footballers who were his age, who were 18 or younger, or I could say who were 17 and older, who played as many minutes as he played. He had by far the most appearances, save for Miles Lewis Kelly. He had the most appearances of any teenager in the Prem, and I stuck it on Mandem in the chat as well, because Mandem were making noise. Oh, he's not going to sign, or we're going to lose him, blah blah blah. And I said, name me the players in the Premier League who have played his age group or more, who have played more minutes than him. And I'll tell everyone here, I'll tell the listeners of the pod, we had Tariq George, who made 8 appearances, 1 start. We had Chido Obi Martin, who was an Arsenal player, by the way, who was signed by Man United in January and made 7 appearances, only 1 start. I think the start was the start. It was a big game that he started. Was it against Liverpool or was it against City? It was a big game that he started for Man United as well, and didn't really, he looked like a boy playing with men, basically, despite how fantastic he looked in the academy. So I think that's important to mention as well. Joshua King of Fulham, who made 8 appearances, had 1 start. Mikey Moore of Tottenham, who made 10 appearances and 5 starts. And there's Harry Howell of Brighton, who I have never heard of before looking for these numbers. And I do watch Brighton play a bit, and I like to think I know some of the young players who have come up through Brighton. So there wasn't many. Bergvall, a year above him, played some games obviously for Tottenham. We know the season they had. Archie Gray, a year above him, played some games for Tottenham at centre back or whatnot. That's it, you know. So in comparatively across the Premier League, there are not very many players who got the exposure to game time that he got. So we have to be measured and considerate in terms of how he is developed, how he is integrated, and where he gets his meaningful minutes from.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I don't really disagree too much. I think based on who we bought, Noni, and the links to another winger, Eze potentially, I think that sort of crystallizes how he's going to be utilized going forward. So, and this is kind of a wider point based on what we're doing so far. I think Arteta really needs to be good with rotation this season. We moaned about lack of depth last season, but I think right now Berta is putting all the tools in place where you don't really have anything to hide behind. So, I don't really want to be hearing Mana going down with hamstring tears. Like we had 4 hamstring surgeries last season. That can't happen this season. That'd be unacceptable. So it's a case of, right, you've got this at your disposal now. Let's see how you make it work. So and it's a critical season, so he's got to win, but also while balancing and making sure the right players get the right level of game time as well. So I think it will be interesting, and it's one to watch. What I did want to get your take on, Shabs, so basically once these 3 signings get done, that's 6 players done, and we're in the middle of July, right? So how do you assess how Andrea Berta is moving? Right, I know you called him wartime before, yeah. You called bro. You called him a mafia don before. So how do you assess so far, and how crucial will sales be in assessing him going forward as well, right? Because that's something we held against Edu. We really didn't sell well. I mean, obviously we got some decent PSR sales through Willock, ESR, Eddie, generally, but just generally in terms of looking at squad players as well. So my question to you, how do you assess the work he's done so far? 6 potential signings in before our pre-season tour, and how critical is it that he gets sales rights going forward as well?
Well, I was coming right back to the Godfather analogies. I was looking for a different one this season. This episode, to be fair, as soon as you mentioned Berta, I thought that's my Clemenza. So basically, when Don Corleone was laid to rest, Michael went in the room and he said to them, they made their truce, and then after the funeral happened, the hit squad, boom. Mo Green in the eye, boom. The other one, gets done in the glass rotator door, boom. The other one, and then the brother-in-law gets garroted by Clemenza in the front.
I remember.
Come on, man. That's how Don Berta is moving quickly and efficiently. So you got to think about the pace has been unreal. Whatever your thoughts and opinions are in relation to Noni Madueke, the pace at which that deal moved was insane. In fact, we can even go further. We can even go back further. Zubimendi, you can credit him or you can discredit, but it's up to people. I'm not really getting too involved in that one. I personally am just glad that deal's done. He who shall not be named any longer, but the former number 5 gone. Norgard at pace, again, you can say Norgard was a little bit surprising, but that came out of the blue. There was no long media build up or whatever. There might have been a week from first mention of him to the here we go post. That was quick. That moved at pace. Yarez, we know that there's been talks. Sesko, we know there's been talks. Sesko's been stringing man along. He didn't waste any time doing the Sesko stuff. Yarez is the one that's dragging out a little bit, but I like the efficiency that he's been moving at and the quoted price and the payment structure. If that's what we end up bagging him for, I'm cool with it. Madueke was in the States. Yeah. Again, the pace between first hearing the rumors and the links to the deal being confirmed, boom. And then we've had a couple of days of quiet. And then what you've seen is Mosquera. We done the tapes a couple of weeks ago, and it went a bit quiet. And then all of a sudden you hear, boom. And we were talking about something in the region of 20 million euros. All of a sudden you hear the deal's been struck at 13 million euros. You know what I mean? 30 million pounds, 17 million euros, plus some add-ins and bonuses. So this guy's been moving quick and at pace. The one that is, and then this is just transfers. This doesn't even include renewals. So if we think about the fact that we've got renewals done on all the players that we want the renewals to be done on, basically. So Ethan, check. Miles, check. That Saliba one's on the way. Who else?
Gabriel. Big Gabby. Yeah.
Big Gabby.
So Saka and Saliba we're waiting for next.
Saliba, outstanding. Okay, so there we go. So that has been fantastic. I think it's business critical. A, for a team of our stature and standing. B, for our ambitions. But C, just for the way that we should be moving. It's business critical for me to get your players in, know the shape of your squad, know who you're going to have available as early in the market window as possible. I know that market opportunities can emerge a bit later on, and you don't want to kind of have a closed fist by the time you get to like mid-August, and all of a sudden there's a big sequencing of events. So that you know, and the player that you've had on your shortlist for 18 months is now available for £50 million. Yeah, but your window's closed because you've done all of your business. So I get that there's a fine balancing and some there's an art to sequencing, but I think equally speaking, it's really important that the business, especially in the core positions, are done as soon as possible. And we know pretty much what the starting squad looks like, yeah, and we know where the gaps are in that starting 11. So we need Gyökeres in and on that plane. We need him. We need him as the preseason really gets into the thick of things. We need to know, how's he looking, yeah. What's his conditioning like? Because also the other thing with Gyökeres, he's not training with Sporting, so you know we don't want him to have any delays because he's a bit out of. I hope he's got a PT and is doing what he needs to do right now. But we want him conditioned and ready for kick-off when we play that first game of the season. And too many times over my years as an Arsenal fan, we've had. I've seen us start the season without making the signings that we've needed to make, and then we're 3 games down or 2 games into the season, and we're already out of touch, because we've not got the players in, and that for me is annoying. Do our business before the preseason starts, and definitely before the season starts. That's something that we should always do. And then in terms of outgoings, I think it's critical, but I think it's clear he's prioritized getting the right players in now. I think we're going to start to see some of the players move on, and I think we've got a very good idea of who those players will be. And for me, he's passed some of the early tests in terms of player identification and striking good deals for some of these players. I think he's hit good value for most of the players. Norgard he got for very cheap, Mosquera he got for cheap, Gyökeres he's got for cheaper. Those are good. That's good business. So the business side is okay. The player identification side is good, whether that's him or scouting or recruitment or Arteta or a combination. But so far that's been good. The renewals have been good. Now we need to see what value he can extract from our outgoings, and if he can extract max value, that for the players that we're getting rid of, then for me there's only really one criteria left to judge him on, and that's about what commercial value he brings to the team, because he's passed all of the other tests for me so far.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because we've had a couple of listeners' questions around this topic. So, like Jagged had asked about historically why have we always been so poor. I think we've touched on that loads of times before, no matter what position the club is in. So, I'm not going to touch on previously, but I think obviously we're going to have a good chance to evaluate Berta. And I don't believe in putting historical context on a new sporting director. So, we're going to be able to judge and evaluate based on what we've seen. So, because he's also come back with, how much would you be happy to sell the following for: Trossard, Martinelli, Vieira, Zinchenko? I will leave those two because it's the debate which one might go, and there might be one of those that need to go to sign someone like Eze. But for guys like Vieira, Zinchenko, Nelson, who else am I missing? Maybe like a Lokonga. What would you hope to see for some of these guys
individually?
Yeah, or yeah, you could say individually, or you could give me a ballpark figure in terms of, because when all of these proposed signings that we've made come in, we would spent close to maybe like 200 this window so far, and obviously we'd still like maybe an Eze on top. So an Eze would take it to like 260, something like that, in terms of window expenditure. So
absolutely. So Tierney was free. Tierney's gone, isn't he?
Yeah, contract run out. Jorginho contract run out. The one we don't talk about, let go. Who else?
I think
Marquinhos went. Yeah, I saw his figure. I was like 2.5 million back to Brazil.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Tomiyasu as well.
Tomiyasu let go as well. So yeah.
So Zinchenko, if we can extract 14-15 million pounds,
1 year left on his deal.
1 year left on his deal. Yeah, I'll be okay with that. So that's 15 M's, let's say. Reese Nelson, for me, that brother's got to go for 25.
It's interesting, right? Because Sammy Mockbell dropped that one on him today. I think what was unfortunate for Reese, right? Because he went on loan to Fulham and he was playing a lot, and then he tore his hamstring, and basically that ended his season. I feel like if he had stayed fit, I think we might have got around 20-25 from Fulham. As it is now, it might be tough because someone like Reese needs to prove that he can stay fit. I think people are going to be reluctant to spend money on someone who's on a squad player on like 100k per week when you can't guarantee fitness. So that's the sort of tough one with him there. So I don't know.
Yeah, his wage shags it a little bit. I really like Reese Nelson, man. I think he's one that I'm a bit sad that it didn't work out, or it hasn't worked out yet.
Fulham's probably about his level, mid-table Prem team.
Yeah. I think so for now. I think for whatever reason he's maybe not kicked on at the same, and maybe that's again because he during those critical. If I was talking about Ethan earlier, Reese Nelson didn't really get the meaningful minutes that I think he needed to really develop himself during those pivotal years between the age of 17 and 21, 22, 18 and 21, 22. He didn't really get enough minutes, but I think that
sometimes it's the loans. It's the loans, though, isn't it? Because where did he go on loan in Germany? He got injured again. That's kind of the issue.
Yeah,
he did go on loan to. He did go on loan to Feyenoord where he played quite a bit. So he's had the loans in between them as well.
I think he went Hoffenheim. Did he go Hoffenheim?
Hoffenheim, yeah, you're right. It was Hoffenheim in Germany.
Yeah. So again, I really like Reese Nelson. I personally, as a fan, will be sad when we sell him because there's something that I've always liked and appreciated about him. But I do.
You know what, Shabs? I just checked. He's 25 now, bro.
Yeah,
he's got to go. He has to go. You have to go and play.
I'm not disputing that. I'm not disputing that. Sorry, but I think a really good Berta could extract 20-25 mil from a Reese Nelson sell because he's still got the contract. The wage situation is a bit mad, but the contract, he's still got his contract. Yeah, it's a Bournemouth. Knowing what they've spent, but knowing what they've recouped, a Bournemouth, a Nottingham Forest who have got rid of Elanga, and probably need to replace, and Edu's there as well.
The talk is that he would like to stay in London, so that kind of reduces the talent pool. So I'd say like a Fulham, a Palace, maybe a West Ham potentially.
Yeah, West Ham. I think there's a market in
even
England.
Brentford, another London team.
Yeah, I think there's a market in London for Reese Nelson. But all right, I'm hopeful of 25 mil. Call me unrealistic, but that's what I'd like to get for him. Bear in mind, he's English born. Yeah, and the English premium. So if we apply it to other players, why shouldn't we apply it as a selling club to Reese Nelson? That's my argument on that. Fabio Vieira, realistically, the 20 million euros that Parma were ready to offer for Fabio Vieira, I think we should take that and call it a day. I would like it to be 20 million pounds, but 20 million, just do it, man. We've just got to chop the L on that one. We have to absolutely chop the L. And if we're being serious and talking about Ethan and talking about wanting Eze, talking about the squad level and quality that we've got now, we just have to let Fabio Vieira go. Lokonga, anywhere between 12 and 14 million pounds, I'd accept. Trossard, I'd want 20 million pounds for. Really, 25 million pounds. Really, I think Trossard's the player who could go for 30 mil, but his age and between 20 and 30. If Berta's wicked and we get 30 mil for him, Berta's really Clemenza. You see what I'm saying? But if I would accept 20 mil at the lowest for Trossard. That's that. So that's recouping. We've got to be 100 mil in sales there, or on the cusp of 100 mil in sales.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think 100 mil. So that would give us, if we spent like 260 net spend of like 160. It's not bad. So if we could make that back, so we'll see on that. Okay. Let's get into some listeners' questions then. We've got quite a few. So some of them, we don't need to spend long on them, just quick fire answers. Lukey_Tyler says, do you think any of the new forwards, if when they come in, get their hands on 10 or 14? If Eze comes, I'm happy to give my brother the 10. That's like a prodigal son. You know, listen, let me just talk on my boy, yeah, because there was another question from Mids the first. He said Eze or Xavi Simons, and I like Xavi Simons, but I'm still choosing Eze because we're at win now stage. I need Eze. The narrative around Eze is too nice, bro. That is a Helen kid released as a 13, 14-year-old, cried his eyes out, worked his backside off, worked his way back up the leagues, showed out, just won Crystal Palace their first ever trophy in the FA Cup run. I need that brother. That's the prodigal son, bro. I need him back at the Emirates, bro. I need him there because he feels the need creatively, both centrally and out wide. Obviously, I know, how we use our touchline left wingers at times, but I think with the arrival of Yarez, the way we attack might potentially change as well. So I need him in my club. So give him the 10. And as for Yarez, I see he's wearing number 17 at Sporting. Glock 17, I like that number. Glock 19, I like that number. So one of Zinchenko Trossard, I'm sorry, you man are getting yanked. That thing is getting yanked. Or Glock 9 can work as well. Jesus, my guy, it might have to get yanked off you. So for me, 9, 17, 19, the Glocks, yeah, it suits any of those numbers. So that's what I would go with on that one. Interesting question for you. I'll let you take this one then. Chief Ike, Jolof Jokic, big up, says, he says, which player in our first 15? I'll leave the first 15 because that's a bit awkward. But is there a player, and obviously this is well ahead because we haven't even started pre-season yet, but is there a player you expect to be significantly better this coming season than they were last season?
Yes, for different reasons.
Give me both.
Marino, I expect. And the reason being is because he done good things. He had good moments last season. He scored important goals for us last season, but collectively his performances were not good.
As a striker, he was all right. As a midfielder, god damn.
So for me, the reason why I've called his name here is because I think the bar was low, that it has to be significantly better. That's one player. That I expect to be better, significantly better this season. The other one I'd have to say is Martinelli. I'd have to say Martinelli. I expect. Now, whether it will be, I don't know, but I expect him. I like Martinelli. I've been very critical about him because there was a moment in time where I was really rating this guy. He had that amazing season, but that season last season, I was proven correct. That season has become the exception rather than the rule. He needs to have a season this season, which brings that season closer back to looking more like the rule than the exception. That season was an outlier, Martinelli needs to do more. He needs to have more output. For me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about him as a starter or him as a squad player. He needs to have more output. I know the system hasn't always worked for him. The system hasn't always favoured him. But what we have had in our system is lots of stability around him with Rice in that left eight, with Mars Lewis Skelly, playing behind and further and covering for him as well. So he really, his role is clear. And what we need to see is an improved quality on some of the actions that he undertakes in his role. It's not necessarily a change. I'm not talking about necessitating a change of his role, but the quality of some of his actions just has not been good enough or has not been the level that I think is befitting of a starting Arsenal left winger and a player who we are paying the best part of 200k a week, who's holding down the number 11 shirt. I really like him. I like what he's done. I like his hunger and his tenacity, and he's done some really important things for us during his time, and I don't want to overlook that. But for me, you're as good as your last game. You're as good as your last season. And I think even by his standards, he would admit that he didn't have a good season last season. So I'd expect his performance levels to be better, and I'd expect him to be the main driver of that, you know. And we'll see about his mentality. We'll learn a bit more about him as a player this season.
Okay. Interesting one from Yahia_26 says, how do you see our left side dynamics changing with Yarez as a striker, dynamic of Rice and Martinelli, or a new addition of, you know, someone like Eze? So I think this will be interesting. I think we said when we all did the Patreon piece that I think the way Yarez plays as a striker, it might necessitate some changes, and I think that's a good thing, because at times the attack looked a bit stale last season. So we can look for different ways of attacking, especially as Yarez is always someone that's looking to attack the last line, make runs in behind, which is good, because hopefully it might push defenses back, even though, you know, they sit deep, but create space for other people. He's also someone who likes to drift to the left. So maybe, you know, we saw the last time, you know, just to touch on your point with Martinelli, for example, you know, he was really good in the 22-23 season with rotating with Jesus. So could there be something there with Yarez, potentially one to look? If we sign Eze, obviously Eze is more of a floater, likes to stand in the half spaces, but he's someone who could thread through balls to, you know, Yarez. We saw him do it a lot from Ateta at Palace. So I don't know. It's one to watch, and I'm really intrigued. And I think to your point, Shabs, that you made, this is why pre-season is important, right? So you get your players in early. You assess the state of what you have. You try different things. You try and settle upon something, or you try and have, you know, different layers, different tactical structures that you can call upon. And that's why you trial out during pre-season to see what works. You know, I think we spoke about doing a potential Patreon piece around this. We know Gabriel Heinzer has joined, you know, as one of Arteta's key assistants. He's a heavy, you know, advocate of aggressive pressing. So could that be, you know, we might see some potential changes there in what we do, both off the ball and on the ball next season. So might be one to watch. And I guess pre-season, I guess, will tell us all the matches we play. I think we play like 5-6 matches in pre-season, will tell us a lot. So yeah, Shabs Count Dracula says, I watched your scouting piece and Yarez didn't move me. Oh my god, bro, he moved us, man. I tried to invest stocks, but my card declined. If Arteta is desperate for Isak, why haven't we looked at his baby brother Ekitike? He's better than Sesko and probably has a higher ceiling than Yarez. Now look, listen, I like Ekitike a lot, but to the point, we've not really been linked with him. So he's not, it looked like it was just legit between Sesko and Yarez. And I think we just want, obviously we settled on Yarez because I think financially it's more feasible, but he's also a more win now person, right? I know Liverpool are looking at Ekitike, but I guess it's easier to acclimatize someone into a winning team, Shabs, right? So whereas, you know, I think, is Ekitike ready to shoulder the burden? I mean, I wouldn't have minded him. I'll be real. I really like the player. I rate Ekitike very highly, but I also see the logic in going for a bit more of a different profile, a bit more of a battering ram, a bit more of a surefire bet, even though it's not done in the top 5 leagues. So how do you assess that? Yarez versus maybe Ekitike's ceiling, and why we didn't look at him?
Well, I'm saying, big man, first of all, you got to sort out your debit card or credit card.
Bro.
Card declined, but you're announcing this in public, bro. I have shame.
Credit score looking crazy, bro.
You got to do money transfer or something, bro. Come on, man, backs payment. But yeah, you know what? I've done a U-turn on Yarez. Massive U-turn on Yarez.
Me too. I was Team Sesko.
Me and you were Team Sesko. Yeah. I'm on record talking the most shit about Yarez. And hear what? I love calling someone out when they've been chatting shit and they're wrong in it, or when I call something early and other people don't see it. Brother, you know, I don't argue with a lot of man in the chat. I make my shouts early. And I get some wrong, and people try to run me down for the ones I get wrong. I hold it, but I get a lot right. Yeah, in terms of like early. I'm the undisputed champ of underrated for a reason. Yeah, look how many picks I've got right. So Yarez, I was wrong. I got to hold my hands up and call it. The reason why I've done the U-turn on him is because we could argue about the level of the league, the quality of the league, or whatever. However, when he has played in England, again. he has demonstrated that he can hang in this. But the biggest question marks that we tend to have about players in England is whether they can hack the competitive nature of the league, whether they can hack the rigors of the league. The Championship is even more of a jungle than the Premier League. So man's hacked it in the Championship, for basically not even one of the outstanding teams. He kind of brought them into the territory of being an outstanding team during the time he was at Coventry, scoring all manner of goals. That tells me something. And then the things about the quality of his finishing, the range of his finishes, he scores every type of goal. And the thing about the way that we play, our style of play, and his mentality, I can't unsee it. I cannot unsee the potential for him to be a huge success at Arsenal just because of the way that we play.
I'll be real, like, yeah, his mentality changed a lot for me. Just watching the way this guy plays, like, he's just a dog. Like, he's a dog. And I've been going back, seeing a lot of his Coventry highlights, which are really, really good. Hearing what Coventry fans have said about him. Also seeing what Chuba Akpom said about him. Chuba Akpom said when he was in the Championship, he said when he played against, said Yarez is just a dog. Like, he said he is so strong. He's on the bully boy thing. He will fight for everything. And what he said as well, like, he's just on his goals. And I proper respect that a lot. I respect that a lot.
That's the type of striker that we need. That's the type of striker that we've been missing for a little while. So my thing is, if you look at the profiles in our squad in key areas, we've got dominance in our own penalty box with Gabriel especially, but Saliba too. You know, we've got dominance in terms of our fullbacks, physical dominance, technical dominance, in terms of our fullbacks. Timber, Ben White, Calafiori, MLS, any type of game. They are equipped as fullbacks for any type of game situation that you want. We've added more dominance defensively with Mosquera. You know, he's a 6'2", 6'3", athlete, absolutely dangerous athlete. So if you look at our midfield now, dominance in terms of Rice, absolute dominance, controlling that middle, but also, what's his name? Zubimendi is going to bring and allow us a different type of dominance. It's more of a technical and tactical based dominance to accompany the physical and athletic dominance that Rice provides. And then we had some dominance with Saka. He's doing mismatches every single week and getting double teamed. We've had some technical and tactical dominance with Ødegaard as well, but he had a down season last season. He needs to recover from that. We've had some dominance in the box physically with Kai Havertz, but technically it's not, that's where you could argue it's not been what it needs to be. So bringing in a Gyökeres, that means that we are well covered throughout the spine of the team. And we always talk about the spine of the team. Having a Gyökeres up front, Rice in midfield, Gab and Saliba at the back, Raya in goal. That is physical, athletic, and almost throughout the side, tactical, technical domination. Thinking like that, I cannot unsee it. I think he is going to crash goals. Honestly, it's about whether he starts fast or not. But I think he's just got such a mentality that he's going to do it. And Mandem have called me crazy, and I said it behind the paywall, but I'm going to say it here as well. I see a likeness to Suarez, and people don't understand. When I say I'm comparing a player, it doesn't mean I'm not comparing them like for like. There's a difference in terms of their physical profiles, their statures and whatnot. But in terms of, there's something very similar about Suarez's playing style in the fact that his actions weren't clean. His strikes were outrageous, but some of his actions weren't clean. He would dribble and he'd kind of bobble and, he'd take loose touches, and he wasn't technically the most secure footballer, but he was relentless. He is a headache for centre-backs to have lived with. And that's why he just done what he done. He ran amok. And I think Yarez can be that with even more physicality because of his profile, because of his stature. But what he's going to do is in those 0-0 games, he's going to stay in the game. And in the 89th minute, when you think this guy's not going to make that run, he's ran all game, he's tired, you're going to give up and think, yeah, he's never going to get there. He's going to get there. He's going to make a difference. He's going to score the decisive goal, or he's going to play a pass that's going to make something happen. That's the difference that I think he's going to make for us. And he's going to do it now. Ekitike, I think, is a quality player. I really like him. I don't see close to that mentality with Ekitike. I don't see it. And I think, again, I would have argued for Ekitike's age profile, given that we've got Havertz, and I think the coach is wedded to Havertz still to some regard. Ekitike would have made sense in terms of an age profile for me across the squad. However, I'm not sure. I have less confidence. It doesn't mean I'm not confident in him. I just have less confidence in him being the guy to lead the line for Arsenal right now and lead us to glory than I do Yarez. That's the main difference for me.
There you have it, listeners. I just think, and it was similar because we had some questions about left wing and, not getting Rodrigo. And, we're still not even sure now, halfway through July, if Rodrigo wants to go. So please just bring me my guy, Eze. I saw people talking about Lookman or Noni. It's not even listen, I just want Eze. Like, that's who I want now. And if you round it off, I'm very happy with the window. Very happy with what we've done. So let's see how it pans out. I think we'll leave it there. Shabs, thank you very much for joining me. Listeners, thank you very much for joining. Do be on the lookout. More Patreon content coming your way. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Miles Lewis Skelly, Ethan Waneri reviews, season previews around the corner. We'll be taking a look. And if there's more stuff, any suggestions, any ideas you have, feel free to let us know. We're always open to new suggestions, but we appreciate the love and everything you're showing for us. So guys, thank you very much. Shabs, thank you. Listeners, we will catch you on the flip side. Peace.
Yo, when I spit bars in the rain, man, I go hard like Santan.